So I just wanted to talk about that really quickly. All right, guys. So please remember that yesterday was a holiday. You do have an assignment, but it's not due. And you'll notice all of your assignments starting from today until the end of next week when class ends on next Thursday. You'll be given an extension to get these assignments in because we want to make sure that, you have the flexibility to turn in as much as possible. We want you guys to be successful. So the assignment from yesterday was career plan part 2, but technically it's not due until next Wednesday. I've given you guys that extension. Normally you would have until Sunday anyway, but there's no yesterday's due date on it because, we were off yesterday. However, what ends up happening at the end of the week, um, I extend week 3 through next Wednesday anyway, just to make sure that you have time. Now, the reason why I do that is because on next Thursday, that's the last day of class, and that is a hard stop. That is a no turn things in on that Thursday. All grades are in that Thursday night. I don't give extensions. Your final is due that day. Like I said before, I don't extend the midterm or the final. So unless you guys have, emergency situations or something like that. So in order to support you and get everything is done as much as possible, I try to be flexible with some of those due dates. So you should have plenty of time to get caught up. Hopefully, you took advantage of the extension that I gave for week 1 and 2 to get caught up. And I'll be checking all those grades. Be a little patient with me because I did see quite a few people did, turn things in. So that's great. Um, I hope to get you your midpoint grades back to you probably by tomorrow or Wednesday, Thursday at the latest. I definitely want you guys to see where you're landing. Um, so let's talk a little bit about career plan part 2. If we go back to career plan part 1, hopefully by now, and those of you that didn't do it, I'm gonna check to see if you were able to go back and make those changes. We remember that career plan part 1 said that we were supposed to set our long-term goals, right? So what was that long-term goal? The main objective of that long-term goal was to ensure that you had something that was measurable. So if we go back to that assignment, what did we say? In that example we gave, if I wanted to be a master electrician, right? What do I not say? And I know I'm preaching to the choir because everybody that comes to the live session knows this, but I'm saying it for the sake of the video. Um, your long-term goal needs to be measurable. Can somebody give me an example of what I mean by that? Or what do I mean by that when I say measurable? It needs to make sense. What acronym do we use for that? Somebody tell me. Does anybody remember? That long-term goal needs to be what? Don't all shout at once. Too much is too much. Give me one person. What is the long-term goal needs to be what? Y'all remember? What was the acronym? You don't have to give me what tell me everything that it means. Your long-term goal needs to be SMART, right? And what does that mean? That means it needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So if I use the example of wanting to be a master electrician, then I would say my long-term goal is to become a master electrician by 2031. I won't say when I graduate, I hope to be in the electrical field. I hope to make a lot of money doing what I'm doing. Why is that not, a true goal? That's a great aspiration. Like I pray everybody is successful and you get to do whatever you want, but that's not a goal. Your goals have to be measurable, because how do you determine whether you've met your goal or not? Like, what does success looks like? Why is that important for career plan step 2? Well, if I said that I wanted to be a master electrician by 2031, now what do I need to do? Today is 2026, top of the year. There's something I need to be doing between 2026 and 2031 if I want to become a master electrician by 2031. Does that make sense? So those steps that I need to take between now and 2031 are my short-term goals. Anything that I need to do, any step that I need to take between today and 2031 are your short-term goals. Some people may take 2 steps. Some people need to take 3. It all depends on where they're trying to go. So for career plan step 2, if you look at that assignment, go into it from yesterday and look at the notes. I've given you a template to use. And the only thing you're going to do, you're going to put that long-term goal at the top. My long-term goal is to become a master electrician by 2031. And then you're going to outline, and you can use chapter 11 to help you as well, what the steps are that you are going to take to ensure that you become, to the best of your ability, do everything you can anyway, to become a master electrician by 2031. Remember, I said, don't be afraid to even go to Google and to use, AI to say, what steps would I need to take to go from a master electrician to become a master electrician if I graduate, whenever you graduate until then. Let it give you some ideas, right? Because not everybody is going to know, okay, what do I need to do, right? It's one of the reasons why we wanted you to talk to people. We said, find you someone that, either is in the industry, that'd be great, right? Tell people your goals. Maybe they'll give you some ideas. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? But I say definitely do the research, because I think the research is best, to help you determine what steps do you need to take. Now, some of it may be simple enough. Maybe you say, okay, well, I want to own my own business after that. So I'm going to try to, like we said, get a job at a small firm, work my way up, learn everything I can, stay there for 2 years. Then maybe I'll move to another firm and, 2 years after that, and sit for my master electrician license by 2030. So I'm gonna spend 2 years here, 2 years there, then I'm gonna go sit for my license, right? Whatever steps you're gonna take. Some people may say they're gonna go back to school. Some people may say they're gonna get into a program. So whatever it is you're trying to do to get to your goals is what you need to do. Does that make sense? If you have any questions on that, just give me a call, all right? All right, so let's get into it. So today we're going to switch gears a little bit and start talking about, okay, I know I'm going to be a master electrician and I'm going to be a veterinarian. I saw some really cool careers that people want to be. Some people talk about, even going on to, work internationally. I was like, okay, wow, really ambitious. Part of whatever it is you're going to do is your ability to promote yourself. Nowadays, y'all know where are we mostly? How are we engaging mostly? I'll give you a hint. We're doing it right now. It's online, right? I don't think there's anybody here that would negate the fact that a lot of what we do, we're doing via technology, right? Even if it's as simple as you're just going to school, engaging with your peers, doing research, whatever it is, we are using technology. It is a part of our lives. Will y'all agree with that? So, fortunately or unfortunately, it will be part of your future, right? I think we most can agree that it is going to be more and more part of our future. Technology is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to become more integrated. With that being said, as you build your career, and remember, you're going into a career, right? As you build your profession, you will need an online presence. even if it's nothing more than you just promoting yourself on LinkedIn. And I feel like LinkedIn is probably going to be obsolete after a while. I know that these IT people, or especially the guy that's over OpenAI, Sam Altman is his name, he's trying to aggressively make LinkedIn obsolete, but he's trying to create his own platform. Um, but whatever it is in the future, they want it to be more integrative. They want it to be more, streamlined, which I'm not against, right? Anything that can make being online more streamlined is I'm all for it. But the bottom line is people are going to expect you to be online. Like, I don't think anyone can argue that it's going to be very difficult for you to promote your business. It's going to be very difficult for you to work your way up the corporate ladder, and people not see you online. That's the first thing people are going to go do, is try to go see, okay, who is this person? Right? I've even told you guys to do that when you interview. I always go see who I'm going to interview with. That's why I always want the person's first and last name. I want to see what this person is about. I want to, because they're going to do the same thing to you, right? So even if you don't do it, they're going to do it to you. They want to try to, get information. That's what the entire, online is about, is getting information. Yes, so we want you to be online, but let me go ahead and say the other side of that. You have to be careful, right? We have to be careful walking down the street, but we also have to be careful when we're online. Why is that? For two reasons. Number one, privacy. That's that most obvious one, right? Privacy is the most obvious one. You don't want people trying to, get any personal information about you, engaging with you when you don't want them to be engaged. Obviously anything predatory, whether it's criminal or otherwise, you want to protect your privacy. That goes without saying. So there are guardrails that you need to employ when you are online, right? Not posting, where you live. It always amazes me when people vlog and they show too much about their lives. I'm like, are you trying to say, hey, come get me? I never understand that, right? So you want to be a bit, prudent in how you share information. Something else you want to be mindful of is something called your digital footprint, and that is in chapter 4. What is that? My friends, if somebody made it, that means somebody can manipulate it. That's why we have, in cybersecurity, we call it bad actors and ethical actors. You may have heard of ethical hacking, right? Because you always have bad people, and typically the bad people were the good people, and they became bad because they had to learn how to do it. So there you go with that. But you always have, anywhere there's opportunity, there will be nefarious characters trying to take advantage. You just know that, right? Kids can't even play on the playground without somebody, sitting across the street in the corner with binoculars, right? There's always going to be nefarious characters. So you want to be very careful with, what you share online. But something else you want to be very careful with is what you say online. Give me a thumbs up if we've seen or heard somebody lose their job about something they've said or done online. We may have various feelings about that, right? We have various feelings about that, but it is a real thing. It's kind of like if we all went outside right now and started screaming and shouting and doing something crazy, we might put ourselves at risk. So imagine doing that 10 times fold online. Like, I never forget, people think because they put their little fake, name up there, badbunny.com or badbunny@gmail, like somebody can't find you. My friend, these are technology inclined people. If someone wants to find you, they can find you. You have to be careful what you say, because anything you say or do online can be found if the right person wants to find it. We call that a digital footprint. It's kind of like breadcrumbs, right? So if you're the type of person, we used to call it Twitter fingers. I don't know what they call X users now, but you have Twitter fingers and you like to blah, 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 or maybe you're really passionate about XYZ and you do this and this and that. Once you become a career professional, you have to be mindful of what you say and do. It could affect your business. Some people may say, oh, Miss Taylor, that's not fair. But let me ask you, how many people have kids? Give me a thumbs up if you have children, or maybe small brothers or sisters. All right. So let me ask you this. Tell me if you would have an issue if your child's teacher liked to promote themselves with special pages online. Give me a thumbs up if you would have a problem with that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. A special fan page. Would that bother you? Okay. Now give me a thumbs up if you say that is that person's business. What they do after hours, as long as they're not doing it between the hours of 9 to 5, they can do what they want to do. All right. Well, there was a teacher in Florida that lost their job because they had the extracurricular activities. And you may say, oh my goodness, it's not fair. But the problem is, and hear us out, we there, and when you go to a job in those soft skills in that contract that you sign, oftentimes there's this thing called good moral character. And you may say, why is that? Because they're not good moral character. Well, it may be to you, but the company has a discretion at their discretion to say, well, if you're representing our company, because guess what? When you sign that contract, you're what they call an agent of the agency. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what it's called. Look it up in business. You're an agent of the institution. That means you are on. What else is the institution if it's not its people, right? Without the people, is there even a company? So what makes the company? The people. You agree with that? So if the person says, okay, well, if you want to be an agent of this institution, then you have to abide by these things, right? Both soft skills and hard skills. We know that. And one of them is you can't do anything that they consider embarrassing to the company. Do you think that's fair or not fair? Give me a thumbs up if you think that's fair. Is it fair for a business to say, hey, if you want to be an agent of this institution, you putting our shirt on, you going out there saying, I work for such and such, then there's certain characteristics, things that you cannot do because it will reflect poorly on the institution. And that was the argument. So the Department of Education said, hey, her district rather said, my friend, anybody that has children know that in Florida, we give all the kids laptops. And oftentimes, and I was a teacher, we give them assignments on the internet. I had kids telling me about, different Discord. I don't even use Discord. Give me a thumbs up if you ever heard of Discord. But apparently it's something that the kids use a lot. And of course the kids on Instagram, they do this kind of stuff. And they was telling me about it. And I taught computer science. And these kids were telling me about stuff that I don't even use. And oftentimes their teachers will tell them to go and do, research. Well, somebody, that they're going to look up their teachers. Y'all know they're going to look up their teachers, right? And they happen to stumble upon the page. Now, how many of us want little Toby that's supposed to be studying social studies to stumble upon a biology page? And I know you need access to it or whatever else, but give me a problem if that would be an issue for you. If your little Toby stumbled upon his social studies teacher's page, that might be an issue for some of us, right? Like, I want you teaching my sixth grader social studies, not biology. So it could be an issue. Here's another one. There was a dentist, you may have heard of this online, that got into a lot of trouble because, and remember, this is in 2025, back in 2021, she had a video of her laughing at the fact that she did not administer pain medication at the same dose that she did for others if she found out that you did not agree with her political affiliation. Give me, yeah, real thing. You can Google it. Real thing. I know it's astonishing, the arrogance on video. and you posted it, or whoever posted it. So y'all know it happened, right? Yeah, Sister Carol got hit with a whole bunch of lawsuits. How dare you? I don't know which is worse. In fact, well, I do know which is worse. You doing it is horrible, but then you laughing about it at a conference. How, I mean, how smart can you be? Give me a thumbs up if you think that she should lose her license, like immediately. Immediately, right? Immediately. So, that was, not smart on two realms. One, the fact that you did it, and two, the fact that you posted it. And remember, she posted that back in 2021. That happened years ago, and she got in trouble in 2025. Why? Because that's called a digital footprint. My friends, you have to be careful what you put online. We know that by now. We hear about the Karens and the Barons. I don't know what they call the male version of Karens. I forget what they called it, but we don't want that drama, right? We want to be professional. Professionalism starts with your email address, what you're posting. You want to start letting people see you in a professional light. I know you may say, Miss Taylor, that's my pastime. I love to, tease people and joke about politics and sports and all that kind of stuff. Well, my friends, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, more money, more problems. And part of your problem is going to be that you have to have a professional image if you're going to use online. You got to be careful. That means you got to tell your dad jokes, offline. I don't know. I mean, this culture, is a lot different from, when I was around. Sometimes I feel like, those of us that grew up in this culture, I feel sorry for you guys because you don't know any other thing. But for those of us, and we'll talk about generations in week 4, I'm from Generation X. Any Generation Xers? Generation X is very pivotal because Generation X is the first mainstream generation that dealt with no technology and then technology. What does that mean? When Generation X came, we didn't grow up with technology. You may have had it in the library or something like that, but most of us, not talking about our Pac-Mans and Atari systems, guys. I'm talking about most of us did not have computers in our homes. But when we got to, they were in our college, they were at our jobs. I learned computers when I was in the military, and that was back in 1991, right? So just, that's when I saw my first uh, desktop, and it wasn't really, we didn't have Windows. We had a black box with some green letters on it. Anybody ever dealt with that type of computer? And you basically knew you had to know how to code to use it, right? It was basically just a database that you were using. So we have the privilege of knowing what it's like to not have technology and to know what it is. So we don't feel slighted or cheated if we don't have it because we know and a lot of us got in trouble using it too, and who remembers MySpace? And because we didn't know what we were doing, talking to all these strangers, getting yourselves in trouble, but for those of you that grew up with technology, that's all you knew. So it may be hard for you to even imagine a life without it, or how do you not engage, if you're not online. So I get there's a big difference in the thinking on that, but it's something that you want to be think mindful of. So I say you have to think of technology as a tool to promote yourself professionally, from your signature blocks, like chapter 4 talks about, to when you network online. So how do you use it as a tool? Well, you want to use it to begin networking. Networking, networking, networking. I know we hear that term networking a lot. It's like, oh my God, how do I talk to people? Well, it's really about how many people that you know. So this is where this whole idea of social media and head counts actually work, right? If you think of it in a professional sense, because networking is really just about being in the know. It's really just about being in the know, talking with people, establishing relationships, and staying connected, right? Do you want to hear about a job when it's on Indeed.com? Or do you want to hear about a job because you're connected to Ned, and Ned works at the company, and Ned knows that there's going to be a big shift and they just got a major contract and they're going to need 5 new people? Is it better to hear that from Ned and let Ned refer you to the job, or to hear about it after they post it on social media and 5,000 people are going to go after it? A lot of times, the only difference between Ned giving you a heads up and you having to wait to Indeed.com is if Ned knows you. And it doesn't take much. A lot of times we think about networking like, oh my God, we got to be in white collar jobs and go play golf and sit at the country clubs. No, that's not what networking is. Networking, that's the great thing about the internet. It's all about getting to know people. Even if it's just the people in this classroom, you guys are in a lot of different programs, right? So let's just say, and maybe you remember, see some of the names. Y'all see some of these same names over and over again. Sometimes, subconsciously, we memorize stuff and we pay attention to stuff, even though we don't think we do, right? But let's just say 2 years from now, you are at a company, you're on Indeed, and you're on LinkedIn, and all you guys connected with each other. And once somebody from this classroom reaches out to you, maybe they're not even in your program, but their husband does what you do. And they reach out to you and they say, hey, I'm reaching out to you because I see that you work for a company and you guys are getting ready to do a major project. And I wanted to know if I could pass my husband's resume on to you. Give me a thumbs up if that would be okay with you. And they said, we were together, we both were at Southern Tech and we did a class together. Who would be fine with that if they passed on their resume? Most of us would. It's human nature. We like doing good. It's natural, right? So it's not like you're gonna be like, I don't know you. The mere fact that the person it's see, that's networking. That's networking. You don't know the person. You may not know him or her, but you know Southern Tech, so you have a similar experience. You went to college together. Maybe you were in class together here or there. They connected with you on LinkedIn. They gave you a thumbs up when you posted, you did a certification or you got a new job. You saw them doing a couple of little videos on what they're doing. You're watching their feeds. That's networking. You don't have to go to the golf course. You don't have to, know their middle name. And I love it because the expectations for networking on a professional level is totally different from social, right? And on the business side, nobody expects you to know them personally, right? A lot of times people don't even want to talk about personal stuff. I've even seen some people try to post personal stuff on LinkedIn, and then the LinkedIn community, they come at them hard, they'll be like, hey, this is not Instagram, they'll be like, oh my God, because people are trying to protect the integrity of LinkedIn. And I love it because you don't want it to, and to date, every now and then you may see a little bit of crazy stuff on LinkedIn, but for the most part, it stays professional because that is people that they're trying to make money, they're trying to make connections, right? Now, I can't say the same for this next one. Now, y'all, listen. I don't know who would call their platform X. It to me it's I watch too many X-Men cartoons. Is it just me? I don't understand the rationale with it, but we're gonna leave it alone. Back in the day, is there anyone here that used to use Twitter? Any Twitter? Thumbs up used to use Twitter. Twitter used to be very reputable. It used to be a reputable news source. Do y'all agree? I used to always consider, even though I didn't use it tons, but I knew that if I missed something, if I wanted to hear what that company had to say, I would just go to their Twitter page. I would go to their Twitter feed. If I knew I missed the news, I would, because I don't even like cable news, I would go to Twitter. Man, you can't catch me on Twitter now. I wouldn't be caught dead on X unless I want a good laugh. So many companies have withdrawn from X. So much foolishness that has nothing to do with making money and making sense is on X. And for me, it's like if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. If I want to laugh, I'll watch comedy, right? I think certain things are just foolishness nowadays. Too many people need attention. I blame the parents. And it's I just listen, I don't recommend X. And I'm just going to be honest with you. And this has nothing to do with any political affiliation, which is so pathetic to say. Back in my day, we never talked about three things. Maybe your grandparents told you. Did anybody remember? You never talked about religion, you never talked about money, and you never talked about politics. Those things were personal to you. I wish we would go back to that. I really wish we would go back to that, right? I think everybody's political affiliation, how much money you make, and whether you are what your religious affiliation is needs to be personal. I hate it, hate it, hate it. But again, that's my era. So I would say if you're going to use X, I would please be careful. Please be careful, especially Little Musk. He likes to track everything. You know, if you say something that somebody doesn't like and they try to find you, like you don't want that drama starting out in your career. So use it at your own discretion. Now, Instagram, I'm still a little bit open to. I would just encourage you, or even if you are going to use X, do a professional page. Try to separate your personal and your professional careers, guys, as much as you, if you don't learn anything else, try to separate the two. Separate the two. Um, the online modality has given all of us an opportunity to have what we call two-way communication. Back in the day, it used to be one-way communication. A company puts out an advertisement in a magazine. You don't get an opportunity to engage with that. So the whole idea of social media was to be engaging. The original concept for businesses to even go online. So let's say you want to do your own business. Let's say you just want to promote yourself. Maybe you want to be a veterinary field and you want to specialize in reptiles. And so, because obviously this is Florida, that makes sense. You set up your own Instagram page and you become the reptile guy, or give yourself a nice little name and you post up there and you really want, to build your career portfolio as someone that, is engaged in your industry. I think is great. People would love to see that when people Googled you and they see that, and they'll say, oh my God, look at this really professional person. That's how you want to use it in a professional sense. Like, you don't want, a potential boss stumbling upon something that's personal, right? You don't want that anyway. So just be mindful of how you're posting and what you're posting, and I know, again, for those of us that didn't grow up on this stuff, it's not as hard to do, but for people that is a big part of their life, they make the argument, this is mine, I want to do it, I've always done it. And hey, I say do you, but you just have to be mindful about that digital footprint, right? You think about the long game, right? This is a career, and you don't want something you do today to affect you 20 years from now, right? All right. So, what are you going to do today? Today, in your assignment, we'll talk about your participation here in a minute. In your assignment, you are actually going to go and see if you can find yourself online. Well, how do I do that, Miss Taylor? You're going to Google yourself. And you are going to write down the steps that you took, because I know a lot of people will say, well, I didn't find anything about myself. That's okay. I want you to tell me what the process was. So I want you to start with, I want you to go to Google and I want you to type something in about yourself. It could be first and last name and city and state, first and last name and your high school, right? You are trying to see if you can find anything out there about yourself. Oh my God, did you find that post you made? Is there some photos up there? Because a lot of times it'll be people that know you that post stuff about you. I'll never forget someone posted some ex-military photos of me on their page. And, it wasn't just me, it was all of them. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, ma'am, did I give you permission? Right? You'd be surprised. So I want you to do that. What I want you to do, I want you to go to Google, type something in about yourself, and see what comes up. Now, you gotta have to scroll down, because if you're not someone that posts a lot in online, remember that algorithm, what we call algorithm, that says what the results are going to be when you put in a search. It's going to be the most prevalent things first, right? So it could be a whole bunch of people with your name, because Google is going to pull back, Sam Smith, that's your name, Sam Smith and Florida, right? So it could be 200 at Sam Smith in Florida. So you're going to have to scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down to see if any of that refers to you, But the more specific you get, the better. So let's say you just put Sam Smith in Florida. You're gonna say you're gonna write it out, in your summary. I did a Google search on myself. I first put in Sam Smith in Florida. I got back 200 results. I scrolled down a bit. I saw most of the people were either obituary type stuff. There were some younger people. There were some, newscasters named Sam Smith. So then I went back in and I put Sam Smith and Memorial High School. And then I only got back, 50 results, and this is what it was, blah, 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 blah. Then I wanted to drill down a little more, and I put in Sam Smith and Tigers football, because maybe you played football. You want to put something in about yourself. And I got back three results. One of them was a picture that somebody posted of us when we won the national game. And that's what you write up. What are you trying to do? You try to see if you're out there. But the only way you're going to know for real is if you put some real stuff in there about yourself. So don't feel like you're feeding Google. You're just trying to see, is there something out there with your name on it? It could be something innocent. It could just be, the high school you graduated from, because people post their little yearbooks all the time. It could be, especially if you play sports, you're probably going to find something on yourself, right? So that is your assignment. But for your participation question, does anybody have any questions on that assignment? Does that make sense? You want to start seeing, what kind of presence you have, if any, right? If you do have it, hopefully it's positive right now. If it's something negative, you might want to clean that up a little bit. Because if you put your name in there and you found it, that means somebody else can find it too. So you really just want to start thinking about, just shifting your image online. Here's your participation question. Here's what I want to know. I want you to name three people or places that you can start to build this network. Miss Taylor's talking about building network and meet to know people. Well, guess what? Southern Tech is a good one. It could be Southern Tech, it could be Southern Tech, it could be church, and it could be my next door neighbor. So it doesn't all have to be places. It could be a combination of people or places. I'm gonna build my network with my next door neighbor because I know he owns his own business, and Tom has always been wanting to talk to me about whatever. I'm gonna build my network with Southern Tech because there's a lot of people, that are gonna be doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna build my network at church because it's a place that I engage with a lot, and I can start to let people know what I'm doing. Right? Three people or places. It could be two people in one place. That don't matter. Right? And if you're doing anything now, let me know. Right now, I'm just online. Right now, I'm not doing anything. Right now, I do network with whatever. Maybe you just have a LinkedIn account. That's a good network. Right now, I'm on LinkedIn. Any questions on that? All right, my friends. Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day.